Like Congress, this video devar Torah is back from hiatus for Passover break and coming back at what could be considered an inopportune time because this week's portion is, homiletically at least, one of the most difficult portions in the entire Torah. The portion is the double portion Tazria-Metzora and has as its focus almost entirely on unusual things that flow from our bodies and unusual rashes that grow on our bodies, and also molds and other discolorations inside our homes. These bizarre things that we might see on our bodies, and sometimes usual things that flow, are in modern day the realm of privacy and something you discuss either just with a spouse and loved one or with a doctor. You wouldn't want to talk about it in public. One idea behind this portion, Tazria-Metzora, what's it doing in the Torah? What is the bigger lesson behind it? Could be the idea of this rash that is on the skin is traditionally translated as leprosy. We know today that it's not the disease leprosy because it is a rash that can go away. And so, despite that, the idea behind this reading can be how we deal with outcasts in society. In other words, lepers in biblical times through medieval to pre-modern times were the outcasts. There were separate leper colonies, people who were disfigured, people who rest of society thought were contagious, would affect everybody else. They were set aside and assigned to separate buildings or separate colonies far away from rest of civilization. And yet our Torah reading comes to teach us that these people also have the right to have contact with the Kohen, with the highest religious ritual official in the community, have the right to receive blessing, have the right to bring offerings as well. And in fact, our Haftarah, the reading from the prophets for this week's portion, also highlights this idea of how important these people are, people who are afflicted with this leprous-like rash, that the Haftarah tells us about 4 lepers who save the entire community of Israel from the siege set upon by the Assyrian army, that these 4 lepers walk out of the city, and the sound that they make is magnified by God to the Assyrian army as if a great horde and an army is coming to attack them, and the Assyrians run away in fear. And so perhaps one thing we can learn from this very unusual, difficult, and challenging portion, Tazria-Metzora, is how we deal with those who are different from us. How do we deal with the minority in the community? How do we deal with those who are treated differently and ensure that we make a difference and try to do our best to include them back in society? Shabbat Shalom.